Hello and welcome to Certifiably Jenny. I of course am Jenny and I am a sewist who has been sewing for many years at this point. And a really warm welcome to all of my new subscribers. And of course a really warm welcome back to all of my regular viewers. I really do appreciate you watching my videos every time I put them up. And of course if you could subscribe to my videos, like, click the bell, share, do all the things that YouTube really likes, that would be amazing and it does really support my channel. Thank you so much for your response to the video I put out a couple of weeks ago where I shared with you my sewing project blackboard where I sort of put all the things that I really need to get done, and some of them have been sitting on that board for quite some time. And then of course my plan is to try and work through, and whether I'll manage this or not, I would really love to get to an empty board. You never get to the end of the board really, do you? Because I've already got things in my head that I really want to do. So after I put that video up, a few of you suggested that I should actually pick off that quick win that I identified of doing the shirt pattern. However, did actually skew the pitch just a little bit, and you could argue that I did actually add another thing to the board, but we're going to call it part of the shirt pattern make, because of course I did go ahead and make a wearable toile. So that's what this video is about essentially. It's how to take a piece of clothing that you own and you love, in my case a shirt, and how you actually turn it into a pattern that you can then sew from. But do follow along till the end because I give you a sneak peek of the shirt, the wearable mock-up that I make with this pattern. Now next week's video will actually be the making of the shirt, because of course I video everything that I do, so I did actually video the making of the shirt, but of course that took too long and couldn't go in with the pattern. Also two separate things, creating a pattern, making the shirt itself, two separate projects. So that's next week's on how I actually did that. And of course at the end of that video I will put it on and style it and all the rest of it. And as you will see, I haven't actually yet put the buttons on and everything, so it is actually pinned closed at the end of this, but you will see it's a beautiful fit and I am very pleased. So the first thing I'm going to do is the shirt pattern, because I think that is a quick win, she says at the moment. Probably won't be, but I feel that it's going to be a quick win. I can just make that pattern. I might even make a block straight out of it as well, and then that'll be done. Rub it off the board, because it's just sort of floating around, irritating me now, and it has been doing that for quite some time, over a year I would say. Now I do have this existing shirt block. So this block is the original shirt block that I made at the pattern making course that I went to, the pattern drafting course. So I've never made it because I tell you why, it's too fitted. Can you see how it's got like a big dart there? It's designed to be one of those really sort of fitted shirts that you would need to probably use some sort of cotton with a load of spandex or lycra in it. It's very fitted. The back again has two darts through it and the front has a massive dart through it, which is not really the style of shirt that I wear. I tend to wear shirts that are a little bit more boxy, but this is drafted to my size. So my plan is to sort of use some of these elements to sense check this shirt. So this shirt, as you can see if I put it close up, is very well worn. It was a lovely sort of plaid shirt. I really loved it, and it's gone bobbly, it's faded, really worn. But I have done the hard yards of taking it all apart. So each of these pieces has been deconstructed, unpicked, and well, the pieces that I need anyway. I haven't sort of unpicked both sides of the shirt because I only need one side of the shirt for the pattern, obviously. So this was the shirt. Obviously there was a collar, has a sort of a pocket there, the sleeves right length. It was a nice fit round the arms. It wasn't too baggy, it wasn't too tight. It's just the right length. I really like it. So this is the leftover half. All the other side of it I have taken apart. The first job I need to do is estimate the seam allowance on it. It won't have the standard 1.5 centimetre seam allowance that would be on a commercial pattern. So I need to work out what seam allowance has been allowed all the way around this pattern. Then when I draw up the pattern, I can either record on it what the seam allowance is for the pattern, or I can increase it to 1.5 centimeters for the pattern, so make that adjustment when I'm drafting it. So I have my little rulery gauge type thing here. I'm going to take this measurement at several places around the garment, because it probably will change. Looking around the neck, it's about 1 centimetre. On the back, centimetre. On the yoke we've got 1 centimetre. Okay, I'm going to say that this has 1 centimetre seam allowance. What I will probably do is actually make this pattern with 1 centimetre seam allowance rather than 1.5. And then if for any reason I decide that when I make it I'm going to do something like a French seam on it, maybe I want to do it out of a particularly fine or a particularly fraying material, or I'm making a particularly nice job of a shirt and I want it to look really nice from the inside as well, I will change that to a 1.5 centimetre, which I can do later, but I will mark on that it's a 1 centimetre seam allowance when I do the pattern. Once I've drawn that out on the pattern paper, I will use my existing block. This is all squared up and all neat and it's been drawn properly. This is a shirt that's been through the wash many times and is obviously a little bit distorted and everything, so I will have to true it all up and make some assumptions, shall we say. Because if you have some piece of clothing in your wardrobe that you really like, you wear it a lot, it suits you, it's just the perfect thing, it goes with a load of stuff, the first thing of course you need to do is look at what of that garment makes it particularly work in your wardrobe. Is it the colour? Is it the cut? Is it the fit? What is it about that garment that particularly works? Now for me, this shirt, the fit was the key thing. However, I do like navy and green. Those colours are very good in my wardrobe. What I also liked about this shirt is the pockets on the front. I do like a shirt with pockets on the front. And the reason is because I don't always wear a bra. In fact, I only really wear a bra for special occasions because I am blessed. I like to think I'm blessed with not having too much in the chesticle area, so I can get away with that really easily. It's more comfortable, why wouldn't you? But I do find that if I don't have the pocket, then it can be a little bit sort of more revealing than New Zealand is accustomed to, shall we say. I actually wrote a post on my Substack all about that, about the sort of aversion to nipples we have in New Zealand. I do like a tartan, and that's very much in my sort of style portfolio. Should we call it a portfolio? Let's call it a portfolio. It's very much a sort of a George type thing. Now if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say George and Elise, check out, I'll put a link to my series where I talk about my style story. So there's quite a lot of sort of George in a tartan, so that works for me. So if you have something in your wardrobe, do a little bit of analysis. If there's something that you particularly like and works really well, why does it work? Why does it suit you? What is it about it that you like? When that item dies, I strongly recommend that you follow this process that I'm about to show you now, where basically you unpick all of the seams on the garment. You're going to throw it in the bin anyway, let's face it. This is going straight into the bin once I've made the pattern. So unpick it all into its pieces. The next job is to iron all of the seam allowances out to make the pieces as flat as possible. And then I will put it on paper and draw around the outside. After that, I'll need to true it so that it's not all wonky essentially, and things are at right angles and I've got straight lines. I have undone the cuff and it is interfaced. I have the button placket both sides and they are interfaced. I have the collar. Now sometimes these two pieces are slightly different. The under collar is often just a little bit smaller than the over collar. Really depends on the quality of the garment, but what that does is it just makes the collar sit better, because obviously if something's going around the outside, it needs to be just that little bit bigger than the thing that's underneath it, which just needs to be that little bit smaller. This is interface, so this must be the collar upper, I would think. I will double check that to see which one is slightly larger. And I have the collar lower. I generally find that in patterns they interface the upper side of the collar rather than the lower side, so I imagine it's that way around. Then I have the yoke, and again there are two pieces of the yoke. These are usually the same size. The collar stands. So on a shirt you have the collar that comes down, but then you also have this stand bit that goes around, which makes it the right height. And again, I have selected one of the collar stands to work with because those will be the same. I have the front. The button placket is still closed, but I'm going to use the button placket on my block. And it has the pocket here, and I'm just going to mark the location. I'm not actually going to put a pocket in the pattern. I can add a pocket. I can either add a patch pocket or a welt pocket, as this is, later on in various designs. That's more of a design feature. I might mark on where a pocket might go, so that if I was making it from the pattern I would know that that would be the placement for the pocket, but I probably won't mark in the sort of the welt pocket that I've got here. I will mark the position of these buttons, because again these buttons worked. You know when you have the button that's just at the perfect point? This was perfect, so I'm just going to mark these buttonholes on as well. The curve, I haven't taken the hem, undone the hem, I can just add on the hem, but the curve I shall obviously take off when I'm doing the whole drawing around the outside bit. And I have the sleeve. You can see there that it had a placket in it, a button placket, which I have again removed. And then the last piece we have here is the back. The yoke, of course, would go on the top there as a separate piece. And again, I haven't undone the hem on this piece because I'll just add that on essentially. And I shall also mark on the pieces what has got interfacing on it. So there's my pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pieces. So I need to make 10 pattern pieces. The interfacing on all of the pieces is pretty much the same as the pattern piece itself. So I will just mark on those pattern pieces if it also needs an interfacing piece cut to the same size. So now I just need to lay these on a piece of paper and draw around the outside. Then the job is to true the pattern, i.e. make sure that it is square. And of course on certain pattern pieces I will only be doing half. So for instance, this yoke piece is identical. It is cut on the fold. So I will only be doing a pattern piece this size. I've got my paper. This is just the old butcher's paper that I use for all of my patterns. And I'm just going to lie the fabric pieces on the paper. Now luckily, with it being a tartan shirt, I've got the lines of the tartan to make it square, which is actually really quite useful. So I thought what I'd do is actually try and sort of square it up before I draw around it, just to sort of try and get it more square, because of course if I lie it on the paper and the tartan is sort of bent like that, I know that it's not square for the pattern. So I can just test it with this, make sure I've got right angles and everything is lined up, and that should make the pattern more square. Well, fingers crossed anyway. So the next step is literally just to take a pencil and draw around the outside. Okay, so I've just gone around the outside now. It doesn't need to be perfect. In fact, it will absolutely not be perfect. It'll be wibbly wobbly all over the place. That's the idea of truing it up. So what you need to do now is, with a straight edge, straighten up all the lines. The other thing you want to make sure is that your corners are right angles, because when they get stitched together, you want to make sure that that curve is coming along and is a smooth transition. So just a quick note, when you're doing angles like this around the neck, this is on the yoke, these angles need to be 90 degrees because of course when you fold this out you want this to be a smooth line that goes across. If this is not 90 degrees you'll get some sort of weird dink. And again, this, when you want to join these pieces together, you want that to join in a straight line. So it's important that these angles are 90 degrees. Okay, let me get on with that and finish this pattern piece, and then essentially I'm going to do the same for all the other pieces. And what I've also done is any sort of things that I thought would be good to know I mark on. So what you can see here is on the sleeve you can see where that piece went in, the actual the button placket, where that actually went in, because you can see the discoloration. So I've just marked that on there as well so that I can get that into the right position. So anything of use like that, anything like a little dart, any you know, where the buttons go, all the information from the piece of fabric essentially move onto the pattern piece and then true it up. So there are a couple of pieces of equipment that I find is really useful for doing these sort of clone projects. Having a square like this, it's called a set square, isn't it? But it's a triangle, so it always confuses me. But anyway, I think what it means is that to get the sides square, it's got measurements on it, it's got clear lines. I don't know if you can probably see it. Can you see it on hopefully you can see that on camera. That is really useful to get straight edges, to measure, to get a right angle. Very useful piece of equipment. But the other piece is this, which is again very difficult because they're all see-through. But this is a curve. Hopefully I can catch the light in it and you can see. This is a curve and it has all the curves. It also has a straight edge down here, but it has all the curves that you're likely to use. So when I am truing up that sleeve head, I can use the curve on here that fits that curve the best to make it into a nice smooth curve. If you don't have this sort of equipment, I mean, you can just sort of go over it freehand and just get it as neat as you can. Obviously in the cutting process, stitching process, it all sort of blends itself out anyway. But I find this quite a good bit of equipment if you can get your hands on one. Not very expensive. I've had this for years and years and years. But other than that, just a very careful freehand. But I would suggest that for the straight edges and the right angles, you will need some sort of square. And then the last step, of course, is on this pattern piece, you want to write what it is. So write that it is a sleeve, that you need to cut to, that it is a shirt pattern, that what size it is. The size I generally write is size me, because, you know, it's for me. But yeah, make sure you've got everything on it. If it needs to be interfaced, if the piece needs to be interfaced, then write 1 in fabric and 1 times interfacing, so that you know what you need to do. So just make sure that you know what's going to happen with each of the pieces. That'll be really important later on when you come to try and put this thing together, or when you try and cut it out. You'll be like, ah, okay, what is this and how many do I need to cut? And of course the other important thing to put on this pattern piece is the fact that on this one I've got 1 centimetre seam allowance. If you've got 1.5 centimetres, mark that in. Whatever you've got, write it on, so that when you're making the pattern, if you want to adjust it you can, but you know where your seams are going to be essentially. And of course I still have the piece of shirt that I didn't take apart. So this is quite useful because what I can do here is work out where these things are attaching in. So for instance, if I know that that is where it's coming into the shoulder seam on the front, well it's not the shoulder seam, it's like where it attaches to the yoke, I can actually match that on my pattern and mark that in. So any information you have, you can add onto your pattern. If you didn't have a block such as this, and granted most people don't, you could also use a commercial pattern. So if you had a commercial pattern, say a shirt or a top or something that had a sleeve head, you could sort of use that as a little bit of guidance, as well as the type of things you need on there, the type of information. So yeah, I always use what I have available, whether it's a block, whether it's a a pattern from a charity shop, whatever I've got, I'll bring that in for added information and then make the best guess that I can. Of course, the ultimate for this will be when I make it up, just to see how it works. I will make it up into a wearable toile so that I can actually wear the shirt, but I will also take any information off that and then add it to the pattern to sort of perfect it moving forward. Because to my mind, a shirt pattern that fits you really well and suits you and all the rest of it. A shirt pattern is a key component to have in your sort of arsenal of blocks and patterns and that type of thing. So I do like it if I can make something that fits me really well and I can just pull it out and make it again and again and again. I'm a big advocate for patterns from charity shops because they are so useful for so many things. For instance, when you come to make up this pattern, there's no instructions with it. So if you have a shirt pattern from a charity shop, even if you don't like the shirt design, even if it's not the right size, the instructions in there will help you to put the shirt together, the pattern that fits you and you like. It will tell you step by step how to actually get those pieces together into a shirt. Charity shop patterns around here, you can get them for 50 cents, $1, something like that, and really useful information. Of course, you can probably search on YouTube as well, that's another option, but I find that if you can pick up a cheap charity shop pattern of the sort of item that you're working on, there's a load of really useful information in there. And of course, the other marking you want to put on there is grain. And of course, with my tartan shirt, it's easy to find the grain because essentially I just mark where a line finishes and ends on the actual fabric and pop that onto the pattern. So that's pretty simple. So I put notches on the front and the back of the sleeve head. I've marked the grain line. I've marked where the yoke comes in. I've added in the details of the sizing and how many to cut. And so all the information now hopefully is on here. Using my paper scissors, I'm going to cut that out, and that will be my pattern piece, certainly for the wearable toile. Okay, so I have done the sleeve pattern piece. I have all the marks on here that I need, hopefully. I will add to, as I'm making it, find things that would be useful to have on the pattern, I will add them in. Because I do just like to constantly improve my patterns if I can. Especially things like a shirt, which I will make again and again and again. Right, I'm just going to storm on now and do all the other pattern pieces, and I'll come back to you when I have a complete set. Just a quick note here, for the yoke piece, I have folded it in half because this will be cut on the fold, so I only want half the pattern because it's a mirror image. There are several other pieces like that which I will fold in half and then draw around the half. Okay, all done. I now have collar upper, collar lower, collar stand, shirt cuff, shirt back, the shirt yoke, shirt front with a pocket marked, but I'm not planning to put a pocket on this mock-up. Small button placket where the button goes, and I have the larger button placket where the buttonholes go, the sleeve. So all of the pieces now I have transferred onto paper. I've put all the markings on that I can think of. The next thing is going to be to actually cut out this on fabric and test its fit. Once I can see how it all goes together and check the fit, I can make any adjustments that I want on this pattern, and then fingers crossed it is actually going to fit like the original did. I do hope so, because I really like that shirt and it was just perfect. It was right on the shoulders, it was right on the sleeves, everything about it was really good. So fingers crossed this is going to work out well, because I really would like a shirt block that fits me perfectly with all my little foibles, my small neck, my short arms, my narrow shoulders. I have wider hips, so the shirt needs to come in but not too in, and then it has to go down on the hips. One of the issues I have with shirts is that if I get one that sort of fits quite nicely up here, it doesn't want to button up lower down. So it would be really nice to actually have a pattern that I can then knock out shirts and know that is going to work. I can always slightly alter the collar, I can put a pocket on, I can, you know, do all sorts of things, change the sleeve design, I can do loads of things, but if I have a base shirt that fits me, then, you know, great, that would work really, really well. So on to the next part, which is going to be making a wearable toile, I think. So this is the finished result. I'm really pleased. It sits on my shoulders at the correct part. Now I have no buttons on it yet, so it's just pinned closed, but the darts are in the right place. It fits at the back. I've got just the right amount of room to move my arms, so it fits quite comfortably on my hips around here. Usually I wear these sorts of things tucked in anyway, but you still need to go around your hips, even if it's inside a skirt or a pair of trousers. So yeah, really pleased with it. It's not too long, it's the right sort of length. Really pleased with it. Collar sitting nicely, and this, if I put a button at the top, I haven't pinned it because I have no button, but if I put a button here as well, you can see it looks quite nice closed. So yeah, really pleased with this. Next week, of course, will be the making of this shirt, so do subscribe, follow along, all of those things, and then you can see me actually create this shirt from scratch, from the pattern that I made. That will be coming along in that next video. Anyway, I will see you next time. Bye.